Yeah, could I have one?
All right.
Thanks, dude.
So I'll start this text.
I'm live on Facebook, man. I'm live on Facebook.
We're
Look who I got here.
Oh, look who it is.
Hey, rolling in at 10:10 in the morning. Hey, rolling in at 10.
Okay,
No, he was actually here before I was.
We're just gonna roll with it. We're gonna roll with the punches.
It says meeting streaming live. We're good to go, guys.
Good.
All right, cool.
Sweet.
So we're gonna.
Taylor's an IT expert.
I am. IT 101. Just give me a buzz. Okay. So today we have the amazing opportunity to bring on our mentor and friend, Tim Bratz. We're going to talk about how he went from purchasing his first home on a credit card at 23 to now owning $350 million of real estate at 35. How his investment company, Legacy Wealth Holdings, now owns over 4,000 units across 10 states, and how he set the standard to pass along his legacy as an incredible educator, husband, and father. So welcome, Tim.
I appreciate you guys having me. I'm actually tagging you guys on Facebook. I'm sharing this right now. So
great. This is our first Facebook Live, everyone. So
I love it. I love it.
First Facebook Live podcast.
Oh yeah, we've definitely had Facebook Lives of Evo just like
annoying the shit out of Taylor.
I've seen them. I'm very familiar. No, I'm excited to be here, guys. Thanks for having me. So what do we want to talk about?
So we just want first, Taylor gave the cool intro, but honestly, Tim, the reason we love, catching up with you and having you on is just because with all, everybody knows real estate, there's a lot of fake bullshit out there. And, what we love about you is that you're straightforward, you're honest, you're down to earth, you're a real dude. So that's why we really have the honor to have you on. So as the people that are listening to this dude is as real as it come. There's no fluff, no bullshit. He's going to tell you how it is, and he's just down to earth. So it's definitely a pleasure to have you. So what do we want to talk about? Give us a little bit of background to where you started, how you got to where you got to, and a little bit of your journey of where you're at today.
Yeah, I think that's important. A lot of people see the big numbers and they see 10, 15 years in advance, and they don't realize it's been a lot of bullshit. It's been a lot of garbage. It's been a lot of getting kicked in the balls over the past 15 years that I've been in the real estate industry. And that got me to where I am today. So back up, I'm 34. I'll be 35 actually this month.
Oh,
and,
Taylor.
Yeah. What's that?
I said calling you old.
Yeah. You kiddos. So I got started in real estate out more as in 2005, right? I was in college. Everybody's making money in real estate, and if you had a pulse, you could make money in real estate. 1 in 4 people, residents of Florida, had their real estate license. That's how much. Isn't that crazy statistic? If you were a family of 4, somebody in your family had a real estate license. That's how many people were buying in Florida and all that kind of. I'm not from Florida, but that's how much money was out there. I'm from Ohio originally, so I'm coming to you guys from just outside of Cleveland, Ohio right now, and I split my time in Ohio and South Carolina. But in 2005, I was in college, 20 years old, money motivated. Everybody's making money in real estate, and I decided I want to get involved in that somehow. So I ended up having a painting company in the summertime, and hired a bunch of my buddies. I had about 15 friends working for me every summer for a couple of summers, and just painting houses and doing landscaping, kind of like the construction side of real estate. And then I interned for one of the largest home builders in the country in 2006. And then when I graduated from college in 2007, thanks, bro. In 2007, I ended up moving out to New York City and realized I wanted to be in real estate. I thought you got involved in real estate by becoming a real estate agent. And so my brother was living out in New York. He's like, yeah, dude, just come and live with me. I move out to New York City. I get my real estate license. And for some reason, I don't remember what the discussion was in my head, but for some reason, I parked my license with a commercial real estate agency instead of a residential. And I got exposed to retail leasing and office leasing and investment sales. And I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. I was like a monkey that just kind of canvassed neighborhoods and looked for vacant retail space or looked for businesses that wanted to expand. And then I handed it off to the people that knew what the hell they were doing, right? But it at least opened up my eyes, because it took me about 8-9 months to close my first leasing transaction. And it was a dumpy little 400 square foot space in Greenwich Village that rented out for $10,000 a month with a 4% annual increase and a 12-year lease term. And, when you get involved in real estate, you start thinking about residual income and passive income, and you hear these mailbox money buzzwords, right? And I knew of that, but then I started doing the math on something that I'm actually involved in, and I'm like, holy cow, this landlord's going to make almost $2 million over the next 12 years for doing something one time. And that doesn't include the other, there were 8 retail spaces. So there's 7 more retail spaces, and there was like 10 stories of apartments above it. I'm like, dude, I'm on the wrong side of the coin. I need to be owning real estate, not brokering real estate. And it was like a crappy winter, and I was like, I'm moving down south. I ended up moving down to Charleston, South Carolina in 2008, and go through the whole analysis paralysis phase, right? Like, I'm going to learn everything. I'm going to buy all the courses. I'm going to read all the books. I'm going to, watch all these, YouTube videos and all this stuff. And I did it for like 6, 7, 8 months, and realized I wasn't going to learn how to do real estate by reading about it in a book. It's like swimming, right? Like, you can't learn how to swim by reading about swimming in a book. You got to actually jump in the water. And I realized I got to go and buy a property. And so this is like 2008, end of 2008. I didn't buy anything yet, and the whole market crumbles, dude. Taylor, you were like still in diapers back then, but let me just bring you up to speed on what was going out in the market. Everything crumbled, right? And everybody's like, run from real estate. Don't do real estate. Real estate's awful. Everybody loses money in real estate. And I was the dude who just showed up to the party, and everybody's running out the door. And I'm like, what just happened? Why is everybody leaving? But the good news is I didn't buy anything with like, no doc loans and stated income loans and all this other stuff. Because if I would have gotten in real estate like a year or 2 before, I probably would have done some stupid stuff and gone bankrupt at the age of 22, 23 years old. So timing was a little bit on my side, that I got into real estate and I was ready to buy in like 2009. And it was, I think in February or something, I found the cheapest house on the entire MLS in 2009 in all of Charleston, South Carolina. And dude, I was just firing out offers on everything, lowball offers. People are like, dude, go fly a kite. F you, man. Take your effing fishing somewhere else. And just being yelled at. I was like, I don't care, whatever. But I was making offers on these things. But I came across the cheapest house on the MLS. And I was like, boom, 25 grand. Problem was, I'd never done a real estate deal before. I was 23 years old at the time. And everybody said, run from real estate, because real estate just caused the largest downturn in the American economy in 80 years, right? So I was like, all right, how do I navigate this piece? And I had somebody, one of the gurus seminars that I went to, the guy's like, yeah, you can just call up your credit card company and get them to increase your limit. And so I called up my credit card company. I was like, hey, I'm about to make a big purchase. Can you increase my limit? And they ended up bumping first they're like, well, how much do you need? And I was like, $100,000. They're like, absolutely not. You've been an amazing customer for the past 15 months that you've had your credit card open with us, but we're not going to give you $100,000 hike in your limit. So they ended up giving me 15 grand. And so that was good news. The bad news is the cheapest house in the MLS was 25 grand. So I still had a $10,000 gap there. How do you navigate that? Well, you're going at $12,000 on a $25,000 house, right? And then they come back at 20. I came back at 14, which is my maximum allowable offer because it's all the money I had. And they ended up taking it. And so I bought it for 14 grand on a credit card, using like a balance transfer check. And then I physically did the work, and I'm finding, remnant carpet and, going to, the Habitat for Humanity, like Restore, and buying like aftermarket parts and light fixtures and all that kind of stuff, and just putting, like, this thing was a piece of crap, man. I just put lipstick on the pig and cleaned it all up, made it look nice, landscaped it, painted it, and then I just held an open house. And one of the neighbors came through and ended up buying it for like $33,000, and I was into it for about 19. So I made about 14 grand. Didn't know what the hell I was doing, and it was the biggest check I ever made up to that time in my life. So I'm like, I'm going to do this again. So do it again. Got into wholesaling, got into more of the flipping, realized I'm not a good flipper. And then I started meeting people, though, as you're doing deals and as you're wholesaling deals and as you're in this community of people in whatever industry that you're in, you start meeting some of the movers and shakers, or start meeting people with money, or you start building up a brand and a reputation of, hey, this kid's got a good work ethic, right? Like he's obviously green, he's obviously new, but he's working real hard. He knows how to find a good deal, and maybe I'll give him a shot. And so I found somebody with $100,000, and they're like, yeah, hey, if you find a good deal, I'll lend it to you. I'll invest with you. And so found a package of 5 houses that I could buy for essentially $100,000. I had to go raise about another 20, 30,000 from somewhere else, and just kind of package this portfolio of 5 houses together. And those are like my first rental properties. So I built that out. And at the age of 25, I had a total of like 10 units, including my own primary house. And I wasn't rich, but I was financially free. And I understood like residual income, and my passive income exceeded what my monthly expenses were, just by a little bit, by like $1,000 a month. But I was financially free at 25, you know? And so that was really like the beginning of getting involved in real estate. And then I went down like this path of network marketing, and I did that for a couple of years and drank the juice, sold all my real estate except for my house, my primary home. And it went totally broke within the next 2 years. And like to the point where I'm eating peanut butter out of a jar, and, you know, like paying for gas with the coins out of the cup holder of my car. And it was just like a really, really crappy place to be, spot to be in. But I got very good at understanding the value of money. I don't think if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be as good of a steward of capital as I am today, and respect money as much as I do today, of what it can do and what it can do for you and against you, right? If you're not doing it, if you're not investing it in the right things, you got to be buying assets with it. You cannot be buying liabilities, right? And that was a big learning curve. And what got me out of that spot was selling my primary house. Real estate got me out of that bind that I was in what was that, August 2012. Brokest I've ever been. I had $80 in my bank account. I had $24,970 of credit card debt on my $25,000 credit card. I had $30 of limit left. I couldn't even make the minimum payment on my credit cards. And what got me out of that is I sold my house, and real estate saved me. And I ended up moving back to Cleveland, moved back in with my parents at the age of 27. It's not fun. But I used that money to kind of just clean up a bunch of stuff. And what happened was there were people in that network marketing company that are like, hey man, we got some money. We'd be interested in investing with you now that you're getting back into real estate. And they became essentially partners of mine. We ended up buying some property, low end stuff, high end stuff. They put up a few $100,000 initially, and ended up being like a little over $1 million that they invested over the next couple of years. And that went well, built up a portfolio, about 140 units. And in 2015, 2016, that partnership just we started butting heads, and we decided to liquidate everything. And so we started liquidating, and I started building my current portfolio in August of 2015 is when I got rolling again. So I had a good basis, and I'm like, oh man, I got to sell everything, start all over again. It was like kind of a punch in the gut, but it allowed me to kind of spread my wings and do some stuff that I wanted to do, and build some relationships with people that I couldn't, because I had this exclusive relationship before with these other partners. And it's kind of allowed me to just kind of go to the next level. And I mean, you see what's happened in the past 5 years. I've built a portfolio of over 4,000 units, about $350 million of property. And the cool thing is we only owe like 220 million on it, right? So there's a lot of equity built into this. And this is shit that we bought in the peak of the real estate market. So I think if you have good sound buying criteria and good sound philosophies on business and investing, I think you can do deals no matter what's going on with the economy.
Yeah, and I think people, and like tying into, you said, so pretty much your whole portfolio you've built in the past 5 years, right? Of where you're at today, that's yours and your partners. But people don't understand that, like, you've just gone through the whole timeline. It's been years of getting, like you said, getting kicked in the balls, and at 27 starting from scratch. And so I think what's huge, and from seeing from your story, is persistence. Like what is your thought process on when your back's against the wall, you have no fucking outlet to go to, and you really feel like, I can't do this, I don't know, how do you navigate those waters? Because I think as being an entrepreneur, it's like I tell people it's like doing crack, right? Like it's like you're like the highest of highs, and then you feel like you're the world's biggest scum of the earth like the next day. So like, how do you navigate those waters, and how did you find yourself being persistent to get to where you wanted to be?
Yeah, and I think it's an amazing question, Evo. You guys are very wise, right? Like even though, how old are you guys? 27, 28, 29?
I turned 27.
Hey! You guys are so wise for your age, right? And that's why I love hanging out with you guys. You got a lot of ambition, but you're also very reflective on life and business, and you're asking the right questions. And I think the biggest thing in business is that persistence, that tenacity, and how do you stop from flying off the emotional roller coaster, right? Like, dude, there's different levels to business, and guess what? There's different levels of problems. As you hit that next level, there's another level of nonsense and garbage and headaches, and it's actually, you're stronger as you get to every single level. But guess what? There's another caliber of problems and another caliber of sophistication of problems that come with the next level. So it's interesting, as you continuously get a little bit stronger and continue to grow and grow, you're dealing with harder problems though, and more sophisticated people who are trying to rip you off all the time. I had a tough day yesterday, right? Like, even though I got a big portfolio and residual income and all that stuff, that's cool, but I had a tough day yesterday, right? I get home and I feel like I just got punched like a punching bag in all directions. So how do you stay on the emotional roller coaster? Some days you're just like the highest of highs, some days you're the lowest of lows. And I think you stop from flying off of any roller coaster by keeping the bar down, right? And not getting too high on the good days, not getting too low on the bad days, realizing it is a roller coaster, having the awareness that it is a roller coaster and that tomorrow is going to be different than today, right? I just got to get through this day. It's kicking the balls. Maybe dude, there's some days where I'm just like, I don't want to take any more phone calls because I don't want to deal with any more bad news. Let me just get down for the day, chill out, go for a run, go for a jog, hang out with the family, and let me start over again tomorrow. And I think having that awareness is a big deal. A lot of the smartest, wisest, most successful entrepreneurs that I know have that awareness, and they're just like, now's not a time. If I make that sales call, or if I get on the phone with that joint venture partner, it's not going to go well because of all the other garbage. So let me just kind of delay that until tomorrow, knowing yourself and knowing how we react. So again, I'm in the process of selling a whole bunch of my portfolio right now that would put liquid 8 figures in my pocket. And that'd be amazing. I've been worth over 8 figures for several years now, but I haven't been liquid 8 figures ever, right? And that's going to be really exciting. When that happens, I know that it's going to be a great day, and I might take the day off. But guess what? I'm showing back up the next day, right? I'm going back to work the next day, because that's not where it ends. And I'm not going to let myself get too high, because I know it goes back and forth. At the same time, yesterday was a crappy day. I'm like, I just need to kind of wrap up. Let me go home, turn off the phone, and just chill out for a little bit, because I know today is going to be a lot better. So, I think what really allows you to do that, though, is having a long-term vision and understanding that long-term real estate works, right? At least, and most businesses, right? And if you have the tenacity to stick with it, and you have the persistence and perseverance to stay with it, eventually it'll pay off. Like, real estate's not an experiment. I mean, since the beginning of humanity, real estate has been a measure of wealth and of esteem and power, right? And so wealth has been measured in land ownership. And so I know that it works. The question is just like, you just can't jump around. What I see is like, I see a lot of people trying to get their business off the ground. And dude, at the beginning is when you take all the punches. That's when all the hard stuff happens. That's the learning curve. That's everything. Real statistic, 50% of the fuel of a 2-hour flight is taken up in the first 15 minutes of ascent, of getting the plane off the ground. The other, 75%? No, I mean, it's more than that. It's like 87% of the flight uses the rest of the fuel. So a small percentage of that entire time frame, all the effort is used on that front end. Once you get up in the air, it's not that hard. Like, it definitely continues. There's some continued effort, but the reality is, once you're up here, business is easy. It's hard for somebody to pull the wool over my eyes, because I've done so many deals. Contractors can't burn me anymore. Sellers can't burn me anymore. They can't hide stuff from me. We go through every single unit. We scope every single plumbing line. We cross-reference leases with rent rolls, with collections, and all this stuff, because I got burned on the ascent, right? And I just stuck with it. But once I got up, then you can kind of ride this thing out. But just having a long-term vision, knowing it's going to work, that's good. Knowing it will pay off, gets you through the emotional roller coaster. So you got to understand, like, what's at the end of the road, what are you working towards, have that goal out there, and that's going to get you past any sort of like the hurdles and the bumps and stuff that you're facing.
And I think too, talking about how success it's a long-term process. It's not overnight. It takes time. You get punched in the face. Like for you, looking back, so many people say, if I had just known what I know now back then, I would have been so much more successful. Like, I don't necessarily agree with that,
Right.
because I feel like sometimes you do have to get punched in the face before something works. Like looking back at your first deal or the first time you bought a house versus what you're doing now, do you think that if you knew everything at 23, you would have had that success? Or do you think it helped you to get like punched in the face, fall over, get back up again, and go through that and have that persistence? Like that really.
If I would have known
Or a golf ball.
the amount of struggle that I would have gone through
Yeah.
by sticking with this, and that first house that I bought, I wouldn't have bought the first house.
Right.
That's so good.
Like I wouldn't have done it, because I'd be like, I'm not strong enough for that. Right. Like you have to get a little bit strong. It's like going to the gym. You know, you can't just show up and bench 300 pounds on day one. You got to work up to that. And it takes time. It takes persistence. It takes consistency over time of going to the gym every single day and sweating and aching and bleeding and hurting and pain and suffering, and every single day for weeks, months, years before you can then show up and put 300 pounds up. Right. And so I think a lot of people, they absolutely, if I knew everything that I know today, if I knew that when I was 23 years old, would I be farther ahead? Yeah. But I wouldn't change a thing, right? It got me to where I am today. And it's just not realistic to even think about that. So why even waste your brain power thinking about it, right? And I think if I would have known the struggles that I would have had to go through, and the heartache and the headaches and the stresses that I'd have to go through, I wouldn't have done it, you know? But because I was ignorance on fire getting started, you know, we all go through this curve. And at the beginning, you have very low knowledge, but you have high excitement, and that gets you past the learning curves, a lot of it. And then eventually the excitement wears off, and you still don't have enough knowledge to surpass what the excitement. All of a sudden, like that's the struggle. That's where most people quit. It's right in that phase right there. Once the knowledge exceeds what the excitement is, then you're like, okay, this is good. It's easy. I understand it. I don't need the excitement to keep me in the game, because I have the wherewithal in my head to ride the storm out. And so it's when the excitement drops, but the knowledge is not high enough, is that scary period. That's the gray area where you got to get through that and punch through that as quick as possible. And that's why, while you're excited, while you have a lot of good stuff going on, and your ignorance on fire, like just do as much as you possibly can. You'll learn as much as possible, and you get through that phase pretty quickly.
Yeah. And the biggest thing too, like what's the worst that can happen? You go to zero, or you just fucking start all over again, right?
That's
like at least you know you tried, you put it all in it, and you just do it all over. And I got a little bit of a complex / all tied in. I think you talk about having a huge vision, right? And make sure you know where you're going. So complacency, we talked about. How do you're 35, you're getting ready to be, have liquid 8 figures, right? To a lot of people, that's retirement, right? Yep. People say, I'm done. I know people that have sold businesses for 30 million and they're done. And so how do you find yourself, number one, never stay in complacency? Because I think one huge thing for me that I always see, like the moment you become complacent, you're dead. Like life is over. Like you just have nothing else to look forward to. So at your age, you found success. Obviously, you've gone through the pains, but you found success. How do you not find complacency, being that you're at a stage where most people dream of being, right? I think it ties in one of the things to how important is the people that you surround yourself in that. And then is all that part of a big goal setting, like, your vision board and writing stuff down and actually going through yearly and setting out your goals? So it's a big question, but I think it's really important for people to understand, like, even for me at a young age, I started making high revenues, and I'll be honest, I found myself complacent to a certain extent, and sometimes you just got to kick yourself in the ass and get going. But how does that all tie around with goal setting, people around you, and et cetera?
Yeah, man. Well, I think there's a lot in that, right? There's a lot to unpack there. So I think when I'm looking at what motivates me, I think different things motivate you at different levels of life, right? And you guys don't have kids yet. I know you're working on putting a baby inside. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So listen, every podcast we've done, I think we've done like 12 or so. We've somebody talk about me getting Taylor pregnant. So it's great. I love it. She's going to get pregnant. So she actually had like a little short note. She had like a midlife crisis yesterday. She's like, I literally cried yesterday because we talked about 5 years married, we'll have a kid. She's like, I'm not ready. Next year is not the year. We'll put a baby in her.
Yeah. Next mastermind is going to be beautiful, overlooking some mountains. It's going to be perfect.
Oh, goodness gracious.
So where were we? Okay, different things motivate you at different levels of life. And early on, dude, I was money motivated. I don't think there's anything wrong with being money motivated. I think a lot of people like shun you for that nowadays. And they're like, oh, you need to have a higher purpose and this and that. Like, dude, what's wrong with wanting nice things and having a good lifestyle, being able to provide for your family, being able to retire your spouse and retire? Like, it's not the money that's exciting. It's like, what can the money do? The nobility that comes with putting that money into things that, like retiring your spouse or retiring your parents, like sending your kids to any school you ever want to, like visiting and traveling amazing cultures all around the world. Like, I think that's cool stuff. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I was money motivated. Once you hit a level of your basic needs kind of being met, and I don't know what that is in different geographics and areas, it could be $50,000 to $75,000. Probably you got a roof over your head. You're living in a decent neighborhood. You're making 50, 75 grand a year. And, you're not lighting the world on fire, but you know, there's food on the table, there's clothes on your back, there's a roof over your head, and you know that you don't have to worry about people breaking into your house. Right. And I remember watching this documentary about happiness about, probably 5-6 years ago. And it said there's no difference in making 50,000. There's no difference in level of happiness in making 50,000 a year versus $50 million a year. And yeah, you could do, but like the level of fulfillment comes from different types of things. And I've definitely noticed that once those basic needs are met, I know that we got a great house and good area, good community, phenomenal neighbors. And once I realized that, then it just changed. And for whatever reason, it turned into more of impact for me. And I don't know if that's different for everybody, but for me, I get my biggest fulfillment by seeing you guys have success, having a mastermind that helps people break through, helping other people see themselves as more than what they can see themselves as in that moment, right? And letting them break through these made up bullshit barriers in their own head that we all put there. We're our own bottleneck in business and in life, and helping people get past that, right? So now it's more about fulfillment, and there's like a burning fire of just achievement in me, and there's no complacency. I don't know. It's not that I want to make more money. It's a way of keeping score. It's the quantifiable aspect of achievement, right? And so that's why I push harder and grow the business bigger and keep on building. And the reality is, like you said, Evo, it's a universal law. You're either growing or you're dying, right? Like if you're a plant, if you're a tree, you're either growing or you are dying. One or the other. There is no such thing as complacency. So if you're not growing, guess what? You're dying. Mm-hmm. And you got to always be growing yourself. How do you continue to grow? You do exactly what you're talking about, surrounding yourself with good people, right? There's a lot of bullshit, a lot of negativity, and a lot of garbage out there. And I think really creating big leaps of success is not only surrounding yourself with the good people, but getting rid of the bad people, right? Because if you're here and you put good people in your life, there's still it's hard to change the status quo because they're pulling you down, they're lifting you up. You're really kind of staying. You actually get that. Surround yourself with good people and eliminate the bad people out of your life. Same thing with what are you consuming? What are you putting inside your head? You got to eliminate the news and eliminate the media, and you got to add quality books that are personal development, achievement oriented, goal oriented type books that you're putting good stuff into your head instead of all the garbage. You hang out with people who eat French fries every single day, chances are you're going to start eating some French fries, right? You hang out with people who eat apples and salads every single day, you're going to eat apples and salads. And naturally, through osmosis, you're just going to be able to grow and become more healthy, become more lean, have a better family, have a better business, and all those things. And it starts with, what are you consuming? Like, we are 100% responsible for our own lives. And we are 100% responsible for or who we are is 100% determined based on the books we've read, the people we've hung out with, what we've decided to act on or not act on, right? Like all those different things. And if you boil it down, it's all decisions we make. It's up to us. It's not based on what happens to us. Dude, shit happens to all of us. It's how do you respond to what happens to you that changes your course, changes your direction.
Yeah.
I think that ties into the 12 pillars, like when he talks about how personal development will take you so much further than anything else in your successful career. Like you have to invest in yourself before you can invest in other people, before you can invest in your business. I think that's spot on. And that was like what was life-changing for Evo and I too in our businesses is like, you have to it's like on the plane, right? You have to cover yourself with the mask first before you cover somebody else.
Well, now you gotta cover yourself with the mask at any given time in the plane. you gotta have the mask on.
But yeah,
now we're going political.
But yeah, I think that's like huge. And I think that you do that so well in building your legacy and leading that on is like, you constantly are growing yourself. And that's why we trust you, because we know you've put the time and effort into developing yourself, into developing your business, your family. And like, that's what we want. And I think it's a trickle effect. Like if you're surrounding yourself with people like that, you're going to start to do the same things to the people to the people around you.
And I think one of the biggest things, so one of the things that pivoted me, my life, my business. So number one, I went to, as all my friends call it, right, self-help, which was Tony Robbins. That opened my mind to think that there's more just outside the box, right? Because that dude is so granular with everything he does, like his little thoughts for how does your body work or why do you feel sad? And you just see full circle, like how you know, the world works. That opened my mind to self-development. And I think the biggest thing that changed mine and Taylor's life was investing in us, going to events, going to masterminds. And that literally has pivoted our life completely. And I think you talked about that a little bit, you know, a little bit of the people that I don't know, you did your $1 million month. And one of the things you said, I think was the shared belief, like you know, you want to be able to share to other people the belief, like if you don't feel comfortable, like, look, I did it just by my belief, like, and that's huge. I think that's what masterminds does is by association, you look at that guy and like, man, he's really no different than me. I could do that. And then you just start believing that you can. And I think that's really one of the biggest things of being around you, Tim, is I know that you're around other high level people and we all just push each other to get to the next level. And I think from listening to a lot of the stuff you say, like, that's one of the biggest things. Because like you said, we get kicked in the nuts all the time. But when we're around each other, we then look and say, oh shit, yeah, he was kicked in the nuts. All right, let me get up and keep moving forward. So
because you'll kill yourself by comparison without having
always.
Yep. Like if I'm sitting here and saying, oh wow, like he's doing all this, like I could never do that. Like you're putting these thoughts into your head and then you're becoming that. Yeah. And until you sit back and you say, I want to have a conversation and find out how I can make his belief my own, like it's the life changing.
Yeah,
I love that.
And one little thing, and that's well, we're not really going backwards, but you did a lot of people don't know, you did a lot of turnkey, right? So you're in a single family space for a long time. Give us a little bit, like in the real estate world, people look at multifamily, it's like the big monster,
it's overwhelming.
Right? Only the biggest, baddest people in the world can do it, which Tim is. But you know, like give us that mindset shift of you're doing single family full time. I know you tell a little bit of the story when you look at your portfolio and you saw that, you know, majority of your income was coming from multifamily, but like, how did you from night to day just make that shift? And how hard was that mentally say, fuck it, I'm going multifamily and I'm going to just figure it out? Like, give us a little bit of that shift, because that's what we're kind of talking about that. So give us a little bit of that.
Yeah, I definitely want to come back to investing in yourself in a minute too, because I got some thoughts on that. But yeah, as far as the mental shift, like, I saw commercial real estate, but I wasn't educated in it. Like when I was in New York and I'm dealing with all these like commercial real estate brokers in New York City, in Manhattan, like they all either came from money, they all went to an Ivy League school, they all like had been in the business and knew this lingo and this language. And I'm a kid from blue collar Cleveland, Ohio, right? I don't talk with big words like they were talking with, right? I still don't. And so I think we all put it into our head, like commercial is this monster. Commercial is this thing that's like, it's outside of my reach. It's too complex. It's too convoluted. You got to come from great granddad had a bunch of real estate and, you know, it's been passed down through generational wealth. Or you went to an Ivy League school and you majored in real estate or some sort of like higher finance. Or you have these designations and these initials behind your name because you've gone through all these commercial coaching and or trainings and education things. And like, I just didn't come from that. And so I thought that I had to get involved in single family. And then I was just bad at flipping houses. But I liked the idea of buying rental properties, and I was flipping rental properties. That's how I got into like turnkey, because I was so bad at flipping like the retail HGTV kind of houses that I was like, fuck, I'm holding on to these things for way too long. They're always going over budget. Like, I'm not good at the customization because I don't have the same vision maybe that somebody's spouse wants to see as far as backsplash goes and countertops and all this other garbage. And so I was like, let me just keep on buying rental properties, and I'll buy them at a deep discount. And then I'll try to fix them up, and then I'll sell them. And if they sell, great. If they don't, I at least have a tenant in there covering all my carrying costs and all that stuff. So that's how I kind of naturally transitioned from wholesaling and flipping into rental properties. Then I bought a duplex, then I bought a triplex, and then all of a sudden I came across this 8-unit apartment building. And this is in 2012, 2013, at the very end, right when I first moved back to Cleveland. And it was like the market was bottomed out then. And so I bought this 8-unit building, and it was like on the market for 50 grand. And I bought it for 30. And I was like, I can't lose on this thing, right? I got to be and it was occupied. There were 3 people paying out of the 8 units. And so I got to be an idiot in order to not get this to work out. So I bought this building, I fixed it all up. I was into it for $80,000. I got it fully occupied, and it was netting $27,000 a year. So my cap rate on this thing was 33%. Like, that's pretty good cap rate, you know, for commercial real estate. And then I turned around and I ended up selling it for like 150 grand or something like that. So I sold it to somebody else. They got a screaming deal on it. And I'm like, you know what? I like the leverage of this. I like the idea of driving to one location instead of 8 locations. I like the idea of dealing with tenants in one spot versus talking to tenants in 8 spots. I like the idea of going and looking at one roof instead of 8 roofs, or one foundation instead of 8 foundations. And it was just easier and offered more scale to what we wanted to do. And so, dude, I just kept on. I took those same residential principles and I rolled it into commercial deals, and I started buying apartments. So I sold that one, I bought another 8-unit, and then I sold that and I bought another 14-unit, and then I sold that and I bought I think a 15-unit and then a 23, and I just kept on trading up. And I had, like I told you, about 140 units with those partners, and all off of residential principles. But it was all commercial property technically. Anything over 5 units or bigger is commercial. So I still called it after repair value. It wasn't until like 2 and a half years ago that I learned it's called stabilized value in commercial real estate, right? It's not called your renovations. It's called your value add plan. It's not return on investment. It's called cap rate, right? It's like, it's all the exact same stuff. It's just different wording. And I don't know if it's meant to do that to keep people pressed down, you know, or if it's just, I don't know, it's just different, right? But I can tell you that some of the biggest landlords in the country who I've met and I talk to, and my banker also banks, are like, this guy's an absolute buffoon, doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He just kind of went in and started doing big deals, right? And it's more of it's a bottleneck in our own heads of why can't we do bigger stuff? It's very similar to residential. Residential, I bring in this much in rent. I have taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance, and management. Right? In commercial, I have this much in rent, but there's 10 tenants or 100 tenants, right? So now there's 100 pieces of income, and there's just a few more expenses. You might have somebody on payroll. You might have, different trash vendors and different things that come in to the expenses, but it's the same thing. It's a profit and loss statement. What's the income? What's the expenses? What's the income? What's the expenses? But at the end of the day, you have a net operating income, whether it's single family or multifamily, and then the property is valued as a multiple of that. So as long as you understand that simple math, you can do commercial real estate, and you got to get past the garbage in your head. You know, it's just adding some zeros, and it's actually easier to do bigger deals than it is to do smaller deals. As weird as that sounds, it's easier to do, because think about it. The banker, you know what the banker's bonus is if they do an $80,000 loan versus an $8 million loan? It's different, right? The banker wants to see this deal get done. Your commercial mortgage broker wants to see this deal get done. The real estate broker wants to see this deal get done. The lender actually wants to lend you money because they have to go and deploy $8 million. It's hard to deploy $8 million, so they're willing to take lesser of an interest rate than $80,000 from a hard money lender, right? Like my interest rates, and if you talk to a hard money lender in residential, you're paying somewhere between 15 to 20%, you know, if you're just going out and doing a deal and you're flipping somebody's money. In commercial real estate, they have debt funds that are essentially hard money lenders, and I'm paying somewhere between 9 to 11% annualized interest, right? So it's like, it's just easier to do bigger deals. You find more sophisticated contractors because they realize, oh, I can go and you know, be like Billy Bob in a back of a pickup truck and doing a $200 fix, or I can do this $2 million renovation where there's real money to be made and efficiencies and scale in it.
Yeah.
And so you deal with more sophisticated contractors, you deal with more sophisticated property managers. Everybody's more sophisticated, or I wouldn't say sophisticated. I'd say maybe they're more aware. They're more growth minded. They're more they understand business elements a little bit better. And so because of that, they're more A players in that higher level stuff. Now you have to be aware that there's more snakes up there too, right? And the more sophisticated of snakes in that space. But everybody's an A player. You're dealing with something like, I can send something to my commercial mortgage broker and I know it gets taken care of. I don't have to babysit it because he's a stud. Same thing with my property management company. Same thing with my contractor. Same thing with my team. Now I can joint venture and bring in A players on my team, and I have a COO, right? A COO in residential, that's a six-figure, maybe multiple six-figure hire. And it's hard to cover. How many houses do you have to flip at $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in order to pay that, right? On an annualized basis. Like you can make that happen, but I have a COO, I have a chief investment officer, I have a director of acquisitions, I have a marketing director who's going to be my chief marketing officer eventually. Like I have these people on my team that are all six-figure salaries, but I'm able to compensate them based on a base salary with some profit share, and I'm able to attract A players because I'm dealing with bigger deals. And because I'm in bigger deals, there's more juice in the squeeze. We're not carving up a $20,000 profit 4 or 5 different ways. We're carving up $2 million of equity 4 or 5 different ways. So it allows me to focus on the shit that I'm really good at and the stuff that I like doing. And so now I have a better, not only 1 + 1 = 3, so we can do more, but I actually have a better quality of life. And I actually like what I do more because I'm only doing the stuff that I want to do versus in residential, dude, I did everything, right? I was doing the bookkeeping. I friggin' hated it. I was taking the tenant phone calls. I friggin' hated it. I was overseeing maintenance staff. I friggin' hated it, right? Now I just focus on marketing elements and the business elements, and I'm able to grow the team and grow the business that way.
And I'll jump back on your business model, but you wanted to get back into self-development. So jump into a little bit on your thoughts and beliefs on self-development and how important that is. And then we'll jump into the business model.
Yeah, just, dude, you gotta work harder on yourself than you in your business, right? Like when I lost not when I lost everything, but well, kind of. Like there's been 2 major reset buttons in my life. One was when I was totally broke in 2012 and I had to press reset, right? And what saved me was real estate. But I already had, and although I had nothing tangible that I could show you, I had the knowledge in my mind, right? I knew how to go out and raise money. I knew how to structure these deals. I knew how to manage. I knew how to do all these things and find deals and operate deals and all that stuff. So although I was pressing reset, I wasn't totally starting over, right? You can't ever take that away from you. And then when I pressed reset again in 2015, 2016 with those business partners, I had grown significantly more, and I'm not totally pressing reset and starting at 0 again. Like I have the knowledge, I have the mind. That's why I've been able to scale as much as I have. Like, dude, I picked up essentially, what is that? 4,000 units in 5 years. So what is 800 units per year on average, right? And it wasn't like that. I picked up a couple hundred the first year, and then I picked up a few hundred more the next year. And then all of a sudden I doubled in 2017, 2018 or something. And I got up to like over 1,000 units. And then it just started compounding and the snowball effect sets in. And that same thing happens with your personal development and happens in business. The longer you stay with it, the easier it is to have success and the faster it grows, but you cannot jump. I see people getting involved in this industry and then all of a sudden they jump into Bitcoin. Then all of a sudden they start trading options and they start some sort of tech business and they get back into real estate. Dude, every time you do that, you're pressing a reset and you're not getting to that next level of knowledge and insights and mindset and everything. So dude, you have to work harder on yourself than you do in your business, because nobody can ever, dude, if I gave away everything right now, you know what would happen? If you dropped me in some city where I don't even know anybody, I would have 4,000 units within 24 months, no doubt. I know 100% I would have 4,000, probably less time, because I'd have a fire lit underneath my ass to go out and get a ton of deals. You can't take the knowledge away from you. So you got to continuously invest in yourself. You got to continuously work on improving yourself, because nobody can ever take that away, you know? And what's that?
How are you improving and working in yourself and investing in yourself? Are you?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, what are you putting inside your brain? One is the books and the reading, and making sure you're reading the right stuff, not some friggin', fiction novel of two people out on an island having sex all day, right? Like, cool, that's amazing, but I'm focused on business books, right? And reality is, dude, I'm not a very good, it's hard for me to sit down and read, because I'm a very slow reader, and it takes me forever to sit there and just read. And I have to go back and reread paragraphs and all this shit. So I have, actually, I'll send these to you, Evo.
Yep.
I bought all these, like, you've heard of Success Magazine, right?
Yeah.
So Success Magazine goes in and they do these success summaries. They're like Cliff Notes versions of all these business books. And so it boils it down to like 5 or 6 pages, an entire book. And so I read those instead. And I get through an entire book. I'm doing 75 hard right now, and I got to read 10 pages a day. So I read 2 books every single day in 75 hard. And it's like, dude, overload. It's almost too much, because I can't actually implement everything and talk about everything. And I have so many ideas because of it. But I'm going to continue to do that. And I'm just going to keep on cycling through these books a couple times a year. And that's amazing insight, right? Amazing input. And I don't totally agree with all of them. Like, there's some of them that I'm like, dude, I'd rate this book a C or a D, but there's maybe one takeaway. And one takeaway can lead to huge return on your investment for the time and the money that you spend on that one book. So obviously books are great. Realize they're written by people, and they sometimes have an agenda to sell you coaching or mentoring or whatever, which is fine. But just realize it's somebody's opinion on a lot of that stuff. And you got to read the book and then take an outside look at, do I believe in this? Do I not believe in this? You got to get in mastermind circles. I think masterminds, if there's one thing that I would have done earlier, and I'd tell myself at the age of 20 versus, I didn't get my first mastermind until I was 30 years old, dude, or just about 29, got my first mastermind. And that, I don't know, 2015, right? Did that allow me to then break the chains from that business partnership and then put me on the trajectory? In 2015 is when it all happened, right? And I would say that there's some correlation there. There's something that happened from going to a mastermind event that put me on the trajectory that got me to where I am today. And every time I go out to a mastermind, whether it's somebody else's, like, I'm in 6 masterminds, dude. I run one, and then I have, I'm in 5 other ones. I don't go to every event on every single one. Some of them are for my team. Some of them are more tactical. Some of them are more mindset driven. Some of them are more lifestyle driven. And so, but every single one of those, man, I get this quantum leap forward every time I go through it. And I don't just, like, I would eventually gotten there, but it would have taken time. Yep. And time is more valuable than money. I would rather stroke a check, and put myself in an environment of a bunch of other badasses, yep, who are willing to invest in themselves. I think that is a big differentiator alone, right? If you're willing, it's not about like paying $30,000 to be in a mastermind, right? It's about being in a room of people who are willing to invest in themselves, mm-hmm, and they believe in themselves enough and what they can accomplish enough to pay $30,000 to be in that room. Mm-hmm. And it's more about keeping other people out who don't have that belief system, yeah, and surrounding yourself with people who do have that belief system, who want to take life and business to the next level. And dude, you can't not excel if you're surrounding yourself with those kinds of people.
Totally.
That's so good. So we're getting close to the end. A little bit about health. I know you have a little bit, well, not a little bit, but you had some things that you changed, some people you met. How important, we're going to make money, we're going to be successful, people are going to start this, journey. But I think a lot of times it can be easy for us to just forget, you just like, you want to come in the office at 6 and you want to leave at 10, and you're just going to fucking go to McDonald's because it's fast and this, and then you compound that into 5 years. We talk about compounding, and then you got all these health issues and you're what overall, how does that circle look? And like, what are some of the things that you do and that to keep your mind sane and your body sane, aspect to your business as well?
Yeah, man, I think that's a big deal. Because dude, I also had a daughter in 2015. That was like a big transformative year for me, I guess. And I have a daughter, you know, I became a dad, and then all of a sudden it's like, you can't just burn the midnight oils, right, all the time, because now you got a kid at home that needs your nurturing, and you got a wife at home that needs support and needs to take a break once in a while. And so like, you can't just, you know, when I was in my 20s, dude, I would just stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning working. I'd sleep for a few hours. I'd get back up, I'd just work. I became much more efficient with my time after I had a kid. And I really realized what was a revenue generating activity that I could continue to focus on versus what wasn't. And I started staffing out everything else. 2015 is also when I started building a team, right? Because I went out to a mastermind. They're like, dude, you need to hire somebody ASAP because you can't do all this shit by yourself. And when I did that, I tripled my income that year, the next 10 months of 2015 after the first mastermind I ever went to. And so it was like, that was a big deal. But then what happens is, dude, you don't want to, you have this newborn at home and you want to like dedicate all your time to it, because that's what everybody says. If you're not dedicating all your time to your family, then family first, like you got to do that. And all of a sudden the health piece neglects, right? Because that's the hard part. It's hard to find time for that when you want to dedicate time to your family, and it's hard to take time away from your business. So for me, like, I got the dad bod, right? And I had like this little muffin top right around my belly. And for a couple of years, I stopped working out. And I was like, dude, in my 20s, I was like jacked. I was super cut. I was super fit, super trim. And all of a sudden I got like this little bit of a dad bod. And I was like, I got to get out of this, right? It was a couple of years of that. And so I realized about 2 years ago, 80% of this stuff boils down to your diet and what are you eating, right? Like the workout is important, but it's a lot easier to not consume something than to burn the than have to do the work to burn the calories after consuming it. That makes sense? So if you are, there's a lot of aspects of health. I hired a health coach, and he helped me out quite a bit of putting a lot of good things in place. And so a couple of those things are, and listen, man, I'm not the guy who's going to be completely 100% inside the lines on this thing and live to 120 years old. I think there's a quality and a quantity element that you got to balance out, right? Yeah. And I'm just not the guy who's going to say, hey, can you cook my food with something else because I'm whatever. And I just know that even if I was that disciplined where I would do that, nobody, like not many people in my life would still do that. So I'd be alone for the last 30 years of my life anyways. And I'm like, right? If I can live till 85, 90 years old, good health, kicking it, I think I could do some pretty cool stuff, right? So for me, it's a couple of these elements. One, I intermittent fast, and there's a lot of good stuff about that where you eat from lunchtime to dinner, and then you don't eat, you don't snack, and that's helped a lot, right? And 75 Hard's really helped me out with like realizing that I can get a workout in every single day. Like it requires you to have 2 45-minute workouts every single day. And so if I can carve out an hour and a half, I know that even after 75 Hard, I'll still dedicate at least 45 minutes to 60 minutes a day to just even taking a walk, just getting outside. You get more clarity from your mindset. It just makes you feel good. It releases those endorphins and hormones just to put you in a better mood. So that's number one. Just get some sort of bodily movement out there, 45 minutes to 60 minutes every single day. Number two is I intermittent fast, right? So I eat pretty much whatever the hell I want in those 8 hours that I do eat. Dude, I'm a sucker for cookies, right? I'm a sucker for apple pie. I'm a sucker for my kids' food, and like they get to eat chicken nuggets and mac and cheese. Are you kidding me? Like, don't eat everything. I'll clear the plate. So I'm not totally good on that, but it keeps me inside the lines of not consuming late night calories, and it gets my body into fat burning mode a lot better, in cellular repair mode, whatever they call it. If I do fast for 16 hours a day. So, and it's hard for like the first couple of months. But then after that, man, it's actually pretty easy to intermittent fast. I don't even get hungry until 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon anymore. So that's pretty easy. The other thing is like realizing what are you consuming from a standpoint of, dude, if you don't eat organic food, like there's over 20 different types of pesticides on any given apple. That's like eating an apple covered with Raid. Like it kills organic life forms. Raid kills organic life forms. You guys realize that? And then we're ingesting it. We're ingesting pesticides that kill organic. We are an organic life form, right? So you got to understand that if you're not eating organic foods and you're eating stuff that has pesticides and stuff on it, you're consuming that, and it's doing some adding toxicity to your body. That's no good. Same thing with like the lead in the plumbing and stuff that comes into the water in your house. Like, dude, I bought an Aquasana filtration system for my house that just goes onto the water main. Everything, like I bathe in filtered water. I drink filtered water out of the tap. You can taste the difference. I pee in filtered water, like whatever. Like it's everything filtered. I bathe in my kids in filtered water. But you think about it, that's the biggest organ on your entire body. Yeah. And if you have chemicals in your water that are coming in, it's where do you think it goes, dude? It goes inside your body, and then your body can't do anything other than essentially encapsulate it, and it turns it into a friggin' cancer. So you got to be aware of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, you know, I don't go above and beyond. I'm not as good with like the oils and stuff as I probably should be. Like I'm very much aware that I only consume really coconut oil, olive oil, and avocado oil. Yeah. But are there processed foods? Do I snack on things? Do I have, you know, a couple French fries off of somebody's plate? Like I'm aware that I'd rather eat vegetables than French fries. But I'm not the best at it, man. But I'm good enough where I'm not a overweight or anything like that. I'm not as trim as I wish I was, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, you're getting chunky, man. Gotta watch it. No, I mean, I think self-awareness is huge, right? Like we can all, as long as we know and we try, having self-awareness is huge. So it's definitely good to look into, just because I think we just get so lost. There's so much beyond just the business that is huge. So having that self-awareness is really important. I know we're getting to that hour mark, and Taylor hates when I go above my hour, but there's one thing that I
respect people's time.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing that I really want to hit on, and then we'll kind of wrap up. But I always talk to business owners, and they say, you know what? I just want to stay really small because I don't want to deal with the headaches. And I think it's easier to have a small business. And you hit on a huge thing that I really wanted to get on, where you said it was so much easier to get your business into a larger scale because you can now afford, you know, you only get apartment units that are 100 units and above and whatever. So just give me in a brief description why and how, because you get that so much nowadays where people are like, I just want to do $1 million, or easy. I want it to be, I don't want to have more than 5 employees or whatever. And people are like, oh, that guy's just ambitious and he's young. And, you know, because I have all these big dreams and aspiration of where I want to get, because I know, and I've seen firsthand, if I make more revenue, I can hire and deploy more people. That makes my life easier. And I think so many people nowadays go into business for themselves, but they never get out of their business and they never become free. And one thing that we admire is watching and being able to see you become actually free from your business. Like you're still working and working your ass off, but you can know that you can go somewhere and your business is still self-maintaining. So
and you have a kick-ass team.
Yes. So give me a little bit of, because the way you built your team is killer. So how you built your team and how you structure that, and how much better is it to building a big team?
Yeah, great question. So I think what you need to understand, what you need to be aware of, is that there's essentially 4 levels of business, and I'd quantify it by revenue. 0 to $1 million. That's like proof of concept phase. Does this thing really work? Can I make some money doing it? We all start out there. Obviously, you got to start somewhere, but it's usually starting out in solopreneur, and you're doing everything. And when you're doing everything, you control everything. It's really hard to give up that growth or give up that control as you continue to grow. But growth and control work inversely. If you want to grow, you got to give up control. If you want control, you're not going to grow. They work inversely. You cannot have both. So what I realized is 0 to $1 million, very, very kind of experimental. Does it work? Let's prove the concept that this could be a real business. What I see a lot of businesses falling into is $1 million to $10 million is hell zone, dude. It is so difficult to operate in that world, because you realize you got a real business, you got some employees that are counting on you, but you're not generating enough revenue to bring on those C-level executives, the CEO, the COO, the CIO, the CMO, the I don't know, CTO, whatever, all the different executives that you need on your team, because it's all 6-figure salaries. And you're like, shoot, man, I can't afford, or you think you can't afford to do that. Then once you get above like 10 million, typically, I would say like 10 to maybe 50 million, 10 to 25 million. You have a really good team. And then beyond that, that's when you really get into like the corporate structure and you go public, or I'm not familiar with that, right? Like I have $350 million of property, but that revenue is in, I don't know, it's in the 25 to $35 million a year range or whatever, from there's the rents that we bring in. So I think as long as you're aware of what your business is and what you're building that business, how you're building that business to serve you versus you just starting a business just to like make money and generate revenue. Like I'm very aware of my different businesses, right? Like I'm launching a kids book series tomorrow. Well, technically next week, but I'm going to talk about it tomorrow. And I don't expect that to be an 8-figure business, right? Like I expect it to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 3 million. And we're going to run it clean. We're going to run it refined. And I know how to do that because there's different ways to get out of that hell zone or run $1 million to $10 million business without you being the solopreneur and having to take all of that on your shoulders. So I think understanding that, first of all, people are an investment. And every time you hire somebody, you should see a return on investment, whether directly from that individual or indirectly from that individual taking non-revenue generating activities off of somebody else's plate, and then this person over here generating more revenue. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So people are always an investment. Marketing and people, those two things in your business are always an investment. You should always see a return on investment on those two things. So as long as they're educated, as long as they're trained, as long as they're in the right seat in your organization and doing the right activities and supported in the right way, you'll always see a return on that. So for me, I got into that $1 million plus range. And I was like, dude, how do I get the hell out of here as soon as possible? Because this is so difficult. I can't possibly be pulled. I'm going to burn out. I knew it. And so I can't afford all these 6-figure employees, but I'm doing big deals, right? And what I can do is maybe I can, there's a couple things. First thing that you could do is you could bring in fractional individuals. Even right now, like I'm not big enough to have, well, maybe I'm probably at the size where I could bring on a full-time HR director, but I've kind of have it siloed off where I don't need it right now. But I have guys like Scott Hannes on retainer, right? And so you can have somebody with that caliber who used to be a chief human resources director, like one of the top 3 people for a private equity firm with 950 employees on his team, oversaw all of that. He's got that caliber of talent. And I could bring him in for $700 a month. Are you kidding me? Like that's an amazing level. Like you can bring in CFOs for that. You can bring in human resource directors for that. You can bring in marketing directors for that. Like as kind of like a fractional employee. Bookkeepers you can bring on as a fractional basis until you grow enough where now you can hire somebody in-house full-time. So that's hack number 1 to growing your team without having to bring on a full-time employee. And then hack number 2 is I brought on A caliber talent by I would call it having an abundance mindset. I think a lot of people are like, oh, this deal, I can't give up equity in this deal. And I'm trying to keep as much equity in any given deal as I possibly can. I don't think about it this way. I don't give a shit about this deal. I care about the next 10 deals. And I would rather have, you guys have heard me say this, I'd rather have 25% of a watermelon that's this big versus 100% of a grape that's this big. There's more juice in the squeeze of just a quarter of a watermelon than there is in 100% of a grape. So I don't need 100% of a small business. I want a quarter of a big business because the big business is easier to grow, right? I can go to Spain for a month like I did last year and we closed on 3 big ass apartment buildings. And it grew my net worth by multiple 7 figures while I was gone and away checking email for an hour every other day in Spain with my family for a month. Because I brought on Fadi Boumitri, who's my chief investment officer, who was getting shit done. And he gets a percentage of equity in all those deals. Matt Carlin, my COO, gets a percentage of equity in all my deals. Nick Burton, my chief or director of acquisitions, gets a percentage in all these different deals. And I have joint venture partners that get a percentage of all these deals. And so I would rather give up some control and to A players. You can't just give up control to people who don't know what the hell that they're doing. or don't have that work ethic that you and I might have, or the problem solving resourcefulness that you and I have. But you can attract those people because when you start doing big deals, I pay them each $50,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do I get that level of talent for 50 grand a year? By giving up a little bit of equity. So it doesn't cost me anything today. It allows me to build my business, build my net worth, and it allows them to build their net worth too and solve a lot of problems for them. And so now I can bring on A players onto my team and build my business that way. And again, staff out the things that I'm not good at, right? Matt Carlin's really good with spreadsheets and processes and SOPs and checklists and all that kind of stuff. I can do it, but that's not my unique ability. It's not where my genius zone is. My genius zone is being on podcasts, educating, marketing, inspiring, helping people with their life, and creating joint venture partnerships and driving deal flow, driving money flow. I'm more the fuel that feeds each of those engines on my team. And I give them the resources and the things that they need in order to perform at the highest level possible, for their responsibilities in our organization. So it allows me to build a big business. It allows me to bring on amazing people and build an amazing team. And again, nobody's thinking about this one deal. We're thinking about the next 100 deals. We're thinking about the next $2 billion, $10 billion of property, not this first couple $100 million of property, right? So because we all have a long-term vision, because we're all in it, long-term and have, those basic needs met. Everybody gets paid enough where they're not stressed about money, but not enough where they're content. So the equity is where that piece comes in. So it doesn't have to be equity right out of the gate. You can do profit share. And then these guys seasoned, invested into equity over time. And so just get creative on the structure. And you can do that on a deal by deal basis with apartment buildings because every single one is almost like its own different business. So it's allowed me to build up an amazing team. These guys are stellar. They know that they can go on vacation. Everything's taken care of. I know I can go on vacation. Everything's taken care of. But we all just like what we do, man. I mean, we got a big check coming in. Again, we might take a day off, but we're going right back to work because we just like it. It's what feeds our souls.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, that's so good, man. We look up to you so much, and we're excited to see, the many more years that's to come. And
Just getting started, buddy. All of us are, it's exciting.
Started. And before we wrap up, what's the one advice if you had to give anybody that's starting a business or it's 10 years in business? What is the best advice you could leave somebody today that you've learned through your pains and struggles that really could catapult them and get them to the next level?
Yeah, I would say join a mastermind or get in like some sort of a group, right? Like finding a mentor is good, but you only got one mentor. What's amazing about a mastermind is you can have 40 people in the group, and based on where you are in life or business, you can gravitate towards one or two people in that group for business insights. It might just be marketing, right? And then you might go over here to this person for finance, and then go over here to this person for HR, and then go over to this person for relationships, go to this person for health, because they're really good at harmonizing all that stuff. And so I like masterminds because there's a bunch of great people that can be mentors at different stages in your life. And dude, I attribute a lot of my growth and a lot of my success to being in mastermind groups. And again, you're going to pay for it one way or another. You're going to pay for it and to be in the group, or you're going to pay for it in time and lost money and lost revenue and lost growth opportunity because you're going to go through those learning curves yourself, and it's going to take you a lot longer. I'd rather just pay for it right now, bite the bullet. And again, dude, it's a return on investment. You are essentially paying for a board of directors for your business of high caliber 7, 8, 9-figure entrepreneurs advising you and giving you direction, and you learning from their mistakes versus you having to go through all those things on your own. So like I would 100% say join a mastermind, get involved in a local group, regional group, national group, and make sure you're surrounding yourself with amazing people who are going to offer a lot of insight and direction and mentorship to you and your business.
Awesome.
That
That's
is
good
so
stuff.
good.
Tim, where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys tagged me on this. So I'm active most on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, in that order is probably how active I am. And then my website's legacywealthholdings.com. I always got a lot of free stuff and content and stuff that I'm putting out there. So, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. You guys are dear friends, and I'm excited about like continuing to grow together and watching you guys go through all the growth. And yeah, like we didn't know each other 2 years ago, right? And we've known each other pretty well for the past year and a half, 2 years now. And we've gotten so close because we have a common future together, not a common past, right? Like people have friends of a common past a lot of times, and that's what they think they're. No, I'm looking to surround myself with friends of a common future. Let's go hang out together. Let's go on vacation together naturally. Like Evo, you and I had this big breakthrough, became business partners sitting on paddle boards in the Virgin Islands in December of last year, right? And we're like, well, here's your struggle. Here's what I got going on. Guess what? We can solve both of our problems if we correlate and collaborate on this thing. And dude, it's amazing. It's fun hanging out with people who have common interests and common goals and ambitions. And we rise together at a higher level than we could on our own. So no, man, I love it. And I appreciate you guys, appreciate all the value you guys always continue to bring, and appreciate you guys being part of my life too.
No, we're
Awesome.
lucky. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Tim.
We're going to keep rocking and rolling, and we look forward to it, man.
Awesome.
Hopefully next time we're together, I got Taylor pregnant.
Oh my God.
There you go.
Join the mastermind. What the heck? All right. We'll see ya.
I love it. Take care, guys.
See ya. Bye.
I don't know how to stop the live.
Then you go.
Stop
You
live
can,
stream.
yeah.